These are 5 Japanese knives that I would recommend if you are looking for your very first chef's knife, or you're looking to add your first Japanese chef's knife into your collection. So there's essentially 2 different types of people here that this video will be great for. The first is you're knife shopping for the first time and you are more intrigued by Japanese knives than Western or German style chef's knives. Then the other person would be y'all that are like me, who spent a decade plus only using German chef's knives, and you're finally ready to explore the other side. So let's dive in. The knives that I'm going to be sharing with you today include the Tojiro DP, the Enso HD, the Miyabi Koya, the Global G2, and the Mac Pro, which also goes by MTH80 or the Mac Mighty chef's knife. All of these knives I have put to use. So you're getting my opinion, also my experience with these knives. And considering I come from the world of big, bulky, heavy German blades, like my first chef's knife that I ever purchased for myself, this Zwilling Pro, 10 inches. I love this knife and I used it for a very long time, and I was against lighter Japanese blades for, well, over a decade. But once I understood them and I understood how to properly use them and found some hybrids that kind of helped pull me over to that side of the world of knives, it just became a great experience. It became a near obsession. And now I've got over 250 knives in my collection and get to create videos for Cutlery and more. So are these the only best chef's knives, Japanese knives to get started with? No, there are plenty more, but these are based off of my experience. So let's dive in. I have a cheat sheet here. I'm going to quickly explain some of the specs, and then I'm going to talk about my experience with these knives so that it is objective, but also subjective. Here we go, let's dive in. The first is the Tojiro DP 8¼ inch chef's knife. This is made with VG10 stainless steel. In fact, almost all of these blades are stainless steel. The very last one is rust resistant, not stainless. So a stainless steel knife, when you're coming from Western or you're looking for your first knife, is incredibly important. I would honestly not recommend getting a higher priced, high carbon blade that is not stainless steel, because they require a lot more maintenance. If you are not used to drying your blade as you're using it, as you're prepping, then you could end up with some really cool looking patina action happening, but you could also rust it. So I would definitely recommend for your first Japanese knife, especially, get one that is at least stainless steel, or like the Mac, rust resistant, and I'll talk about that in a minute. VG10 stainless steel has been around for a very long time. A couple of these are made with it. It is a great stainless steel because the hardness of the steel isn't way too hard. One of the issues with Japanese knives is that people get a really high-end, high Rockwell Japanese knife like 63 and above, and within the first week or two or a month, they end up chipping or cracking the blade because they're not using it properly. These blades have a bit more forgiveness to them, much like the world of German knives. The Zwilling, along with Wüsthof and a lot of the other German blades, come in that 56 to 60 Rockwell at the higher end, usually 56 to 58. So the Tojiro is a 60 Rockwell. This has a full tang construction, which means that the metal of the blade goes all the way down into the handle. What that does is it provides a really nice balance to the blade. Now, the balance of a knife does not determine its quality or durability. It's all personal preference. A lot of German blades except for the 10-inch here. This has a nice balance to it because it's 10 inches, but a lot of the German blades that are around 8, like these, are going to be handle heavy. A lot of more traditional Japanese blades, like a Gyuto here, are going to be blade heavy. So what's great about all the knives that I'm going to show you here is they have a nice balance, so you can then decide as you add knives to your collection if you would like to experience something that is blade heavy, because it is very different and definitely takes some getting used to. For a first-time Japanese knife or a first-time knife as a whole, it is nice to have something that has a decent balance to it. This has a triple riveted handle that is made of micarta. Micarta is an epoxy-like resin material that is incredibly durable. The reason that I have the Tojiro first here is because it is very similar looking to a lot of more Western knives. It has the balance. You've got the stainless steel. This has a bolster to it, and the bigger butt of the handle here just give you that grip that a lot of people are used to from working with German Western style knives. So as an intro to Japanese knives, this is fantastic. One thing I will say with the Tojiro is this does have a more traditional Gyuto-like shape to the tip of the blade here, where this curves down towards the edge away from the spine. You don't get a perfect, actually the Mac is very similar, but some of these, like the Miyabi here, come dead straight and meet in the center. And unlike this Zwilling, which is at the spine end of the tip, or a Wüsthof, which is a little bit more centered. With the Tojiro, what you're gonna find is that the length of this does make it good for the rock chop, which is what a lot of people who use German Western knives are accustomed to. But unlike a more traditional Gyuto where this comes closer, the tip comes closer to the edge side, it's not that great for the rock chop. All these are perfect for the rock chop, but they're also great because of the straightness up into most of the knife, that you can get a good tap chop while making good surface contact on the cutting board, or you can get a push chop. These are also great for mincing. The other thing with the Rockwell hardness of all of these in the sense of mincing is that when you're mincing, you're pivoting the blade like this. And when you're doing the rock chop, you're generally, well, not generally, but you are moving down the product. So you're getting these little tiny torques to the blade and pivots like this. All these blades at their 60 to 61, except for the Global, which is lower, Rockwell, that type of motion is not going to damage the blade as that type of motion would some higher Rockwell Japanese knives. Tojiro comes in at a normal price of around $115. I love this knife. For the price, for the style, for the blade, for the stainless steel, the Rockwell, everything, I think that this is just an absolutely stellar blade for first chef's knife ever, or someone who's looking to dabble into the world of Japanese knives. It's also like a perfect hybrid. I mean, I would say a perfect hybrid. This would be the next one that would be close to a perfect hybrid, but when we get to that, I'll explain why it's a little bit different. Next up is the Enso HD. The entire line and different series of Enso knives are our in-house brand from Seki, Japan. The owner of Cutlery More created these well over a decade ago because he wanted to have the hybrid. Although it might not look as traditional as the Western, like, you know, the Tojiro and the Mac do, it feels like a hybrid blade. So let's start with the steel. VG10 stainless steel, same thing as the Tojiro. This is coming in at a 61 Rockwell. So yes, it is the same stainless steel, but you'll find that when you read about VG10, they're gonna fall between that 60 to 61 mark. This has 37 layers of Damascus, as well as what's called a sashimi finish or hammered finish at the top here. Now, there's claim that the hammered finish works much like the hollows on the side of a knife, which a lot of you may have seen seen on a chef's knife or mostly on a santoku knife. And the claim is that these hammered finishes will prevent product from sticking to the edge of the blade like the hollows over here. It's not exactly true for the hammered as well as the hollows. These types of finishes don't necessarily prevent things from sticking. A wet cucumber, tomato, and potato will definitely stick to almost any blade, but what they tend to do is with those little air divots that are in there, it allows the product to come off much more easily. So your next push or slice will push off the one that's stuck and the other one will replace it, or you can just go like this and it's going to come off easily. Okay, this has a micarta handle as well. It is triple riveted. You get a bolster and a stainless steel end cap. So again, a little bit heavier of a handle. And if you look at all of these handles lined up, you can see that the Enso has a bit fuller body to it. It is rounded all throughout, so it has curves to it. It's got a little bit of a belly. It's just got a really nice grippy feel to it. The Enso has that centered tip to it, and with this blade, whether you get the 8-inch or one of the longer versions of it, you get great contact throughout the belly and body of the blade. You have a nice curvature at the tip that is comfortable at the rock chop. You can get yourself into a tap using the tip, the mid, the base, anything. This is just a fantastic blade, and yes, it is one of our in-house lines, so of course we want to talk about it and promote it, but I've used this knife and the others in the series quite a bit, and they just feel good. It's a good feeling blade. And coming in at a normal price of $150, it's a fantastic starter knife. It's also a fantastic knife to just add to your collection, even if you have others that are a bit more expensive on the German side and you're looking to transition over. Okay, next up we have the Miyabi Koya. This is a nice hybrid, but it is also leaning more towards the feel of a traditional Japanese knife. This is made with FC61, which is a proprietary blend that was created for Miyabi. It is the same Rockwell as VG10. In fact, I would say that no one using these knives back to back would really be able to tell the difference between the FC61 and the VG10. However, with the hardening process and some of the more elements that are added to the steel, this is supposed to be a bit more durable, which is a good thing because Miyabi knives are very, very thin. From the spine going down to the edge, it is a pretty hard angle down, meaning that it gets very thin towards the edge. These cut so smoothly. I mean, it's incredibly fluid. Not that the others aren't, but if you were to pick up this julienne and onion and then pick up either of these or actually any of the other knives here, this is going to have that more delicate feel of a Japanese blade. With that, you also do have to be a bit more mindful with the edge of this knife compared to the others, even though the Rockwell is the same and it's also stainless steel. This has a really nice bounce at the elongated bolster going into a birchwood colored Packawood handle. Packawood is another engineered material, very similar to micarta. It's meant to last forever. The handle is octagonal, which is definitely very traditional in the sense of a Japanese knife, but having the bolster and the balance to it is not. So that's why this is a great hybrid knife. This is coming in normally at $160. Fantastic, 61 Rockwell, I mentioned all of that, elongated bolster, fantastic. This is our exclusive line, and if you don't care for this color handle, that's what the Ko would be for, which comes in black. It's the exact same knife. We just created this with Miyabi for an exclusive look, an exclusive line, because some folks love that natural wood look to match the ambiance in their kitchen. Fantastic knife, highly recommend it. The biggest difference between this and the other two is not only are we having a more traditional octagonal handle, but the difference in the width of the blade you will definitely feel. Next up is the Global G2 8-inch chef's knife. This knife is one of the most popular in the culinary world because Anthony Bourdain recommended Global knives in Kitchen Confidential. It is a fantastic lightweight knife that is definitely the most unique of the 5 here and unique among Japanese knives or among German knives. It's an interesting hybrid. The steel is stainless. They go by calling it Chromova 18 high carbon stainless steel. The Rockwell of this is what's very different compared to these other knives. This comes in at a 56 to 58. The benefit of that is if you are used to sharpening your German knife, or if you're brand new to Japanese knives or you're brand new to knives as a whole, that 56 to 58 Rockwell is very forgiving. This is the knife you want to pop into a avocado seed and twist it and pop it off, go for it. If you cut into an apple and hit every seed on the way, totally fine. Honestly, I've even hit some bones with this. It's been great because it's soft enough not to chip or crack, but it's also soft enough that you can easily put this on a whetstone or any type of sharpener, really, even ones that I wouldn't necessarily recommend using because whetstone is what I recommend. You can put these on there and it's going to bring it back to life. So it's a very forgiving steel. There's really no bolster because this just goes right down into the handle, which is unique among these, as well as other Japanese knives that have a very pronounced difference right here where the tang goes in and you just have this L on both sides that separates the handle and the blade. There are dimples throughout the handle which are grippy, even though this is stainless all the way down. The balance of this is depending exactly where you put it. Some of these others I'm kind of right at the heel. This I'm a little bit into the handle. For the most part, this is very well balanced. What's interesting about this knife is that you can grip this down on the handle, but still be in a proper pinch grip, where the other knives, you literally have to be above the bolster at the pinch grip, which is how you should hold a knife. So for someone who may be used to holding a chef's knife down here, especially if you're coming from a full bolster woost off, where the pinch grip isn't always as comfortable for long periods of prep, this is going to feel good. But you're also going from super heavy to super lightweight. The first time I picked up this knife, a friend from culinary school that was in my group had it. I was so excited to see it. I was excited to use it. He did let me use it. And I literally did this. I picked it up and I put it right back down. I was like, nope, not for me, because I come from this beast and it just didn't feel right. Well, I got this knife earlier this year. We're at the end of 2024. I got this, I think, in January or February. I love it. My wife loves it. I put it to use. I have definitely abused it intentionally. It is a great blade at a great price. It's going to last forever. It sharpens easily, but because of the style, the design, the lightweight, it may not be for everyone. So it's one of those knives that if you order online without getting to pick it up first, seriously, pick it up, and before you even use it, please just hold it for a little bit. Don't use it, just hold it. And if it feels off and you don't think you want to get used to it, return it. I mean it, return it. We will gladly take it back. We would just much rather take it back without it being used so we can do something else with it, okay? Promise me that. This is the knife that is the cheapest, almost the cheapest. The Tojiro is the cheapest, but again, you can get this for $100. You can generally get the Tojiro for $100 too. That goes on sale. And with your sign up newsletter percentage off, it brings around $100 anyway. You know the deal. So this is over on this end of the knives because of all of the reasons that I just explained. Does this do well with the rock chop? Yes, it does. Tap, push, you can pivot, the whole nine. Great blade if you think you'll like the lightweight. And last but not least, actually, I'm not even going to say last. There are so many other knives that could be in this video. I even see a couple others, but they're over that $200 mark. And if you're going to get into the world of Japanese knives, you should do it at a decent price, but don't spend a ton of money, because what if you don't like it and you just want to go back to your big old Wusthofer Zwilling? Buy a knife that you're going to use. Next up, this is the Mac Pro, aka Mac MTH80, aka Mac Pro Mighty. It is the blade of many names. This got super popular since it was shown on the show The Bear. One thing I will say with this, and I will try and link it in the video, there are a lot of Mac counterfeits out there. Literally, counterfeit knives pretending to be the Mac. And I will mention this. Look, I even got the Post-it note. Counterfeit. This is not made in Japan. It is a knockoff. And it's terrible. Okay? So we are an authorized Mac dealer. If you don't get it from us, get it from an authorized dealer. Next up, continuing, should I say, the Mac Mighty. This is an interesting steel because Mac doesn't tell us or anyone what it is. What they do say is it is sub-zero tempered steel, which is going to increase its durability, and it is rust resistant. I have used several Mac knives, and with wiping them down after each use, drying them, making sure that they're not going into anything wet, I have not once seen any spots, rust marks, nothing. However, I did have some Macs come to me that were in a cardboard sheath that were returns, and they did have some spots on them. Actually, 2 different knives that were given to me for content that had some rust spots on it, like little specks throughout. So did the person put it in there wet? Was it humidity? I don't know. But since they specifically say these are rust resistant, not stainless steel like the others, that's why it's the last one I'm showing you, because this is going to require a little bit more care. This also has that more traditional Gyuto shape, which is Japanese chef's knife, which is this is coming down. It does look centered, but the curvature here is similar to the Tojiro. So if you do decide to get this blade, which is normally at $164, so it's the most expensive in the lineup. Again, you can find this on sale a lot. You get your promo code when you sign up for a newsletter. It brings prices down. It's at the end because this is going to require the most amount of maintenance of all of the 5 knives that I'm showing you today. So I don't mean to scare you with that. All you got to do is just dry your knife when you're done using it, and it's most likely going to be totally fine. The other thing is make sure it's totally dry before you put it back into a wooden block or even on a magnetic easel like this. You don't want moisture to get trapped. Not good. Okay, sub-zero tempered steel, rust resistant. I told you they don't tell us the blade steel type, but based off of our experience at Cutlery More and my experience using this compared to the others, it's something similar to VG10, and it is coming in at a 61 Rockwell. So who knows what it is, but it's close to it. This is bringing us back to the Tojiro style handle, which is reminiscent of the Western. So we have a bolster, full tang construction. The butt of the blade, you can see the metal goes all the way down, triple riveted. This is made with Paca wood, which is just like the Koya here. This is going to have a little bit, just a little bit, depending exactly where you hold this at the bolster area, the base of the blade. Perfect balance, or it's just going to be a little bit handle heavy. These two are, if you want a Japanese knife, but you want to have that feel of a German blade that you're used to, these are the two I would highly, highly recommend. They cut like butter. They feel great. You're getting that higher Rockwell. You're getting the thinner Japanese blade. Might not be as thin as the Miyabi. And I'm going to be honest with you, I could get a caliper and measure all of these at the like mid to the edge, and they could be very similar, or they could be just so close, but there's something about the fineness of the Miyabi that in my experience with these, I notice more so. It's not that these are like, oh, I can't get it through my mushroom or the onion. There's just a little bit extra of an ease with that one. Anyway, this also has hollows on the edge, minimizing sticking, allowing product to come off easily. It's a great blade. I absolutely love this blade as well. I probably have a little bit of a tendency in this world here to lean more towards the Tojiro and the Mac because of that feel that I was using for a decade plus. Even longer than that, but since I actually bought that. Gosh, how long has it been now? I guess it's been more than a decade. I started culinary school in 2013. I went later in life. So I started in 2013. So that's when I bought it. It's now almost 2025. So it's been over a decade that I've had that knife. Before that, I had kind of throwaway knives, but they were more German style. So I guess I was used to holding a knife that was similar to that before. I think I had a Calphalon Santoku or something was the first knife I ever bought. But again, it's that German type of feel. Anyway, these two just feel like home to me. The Enso has a German feel in the sense of the weight to it. It's just a different curve. I would say it's actually even more ergonomic because of the way it's rounded all the way throughout. And since I hold at the pinch grip, this right here, this little kick out, the flare, it's not holding my hand in position because with all these knives, I'm holding well above that area anyway. The Miyabi Koya, definitely the most traditional Japanese in this lineup, even though it has the bolster, it's just that octagonal handle feel. And then of course the Global is just the free-spirited unique one, the unicorn in the bunch here because of the way it is put together. So that is my experience and my recommendation for the title of this being the best first Japanese chef's knives or Japanese knives, because I've used all of these. I have so many other knives that I have used that I feel that hopefully my opinion here is objective as well as subjective. So just think about where you're at with your comfort with knives, where you're at coming from, whether it's German, looking to get your first Japanese knife, or you're looking to get your first chef's knife. Or let's say you were like me, where you had one knife for a very long time through your young adulthood, that Calphalon $30 Santoku, and you're finally ready to get something decent. This is what I would recommend. So just think about where you're at. I shared a lot of information about all of these, and hopefully it'll help guide you to decide which of these or similar knives that have similar characteristics that you can think to this from will become your first Japanese chef's knife. I'm Chef Brandon with Cutlery More. Thank you so much for hanging out. Please comment, like, share, do all the jazzy things that y'all do on YouTube. We would certainly appreciate it. And we would also appreciate you clicking all the links of these different knives in the description here so you can check them out, see more photos, read more about it, and compare. That's it. One last thing, if you are used to a 9 or 10-inch German chef's knife and you want to keep the blade length the same, that's totally fine, because you can get longer versions of some of these knives. I know that the Enso comes in a 9.5 or 10-inch. You can get the Tojiro in a 10-inch. The Global makes an 11-inch, which is almost a slicing blade at that point, but it has the same shape and feel and everything. And I'm pretty sure the Mac you can get in a 9 something as well. So these are all around 8 inches, but if you like that bigger blade, and at that point with some of these, you may also get a more blade heavy feel. So keep that in mind. You don't have to go with the 8. You can get them a little bit bigger. Just keep everything in mind that I shared. The balance will change a little bit The rock chop will actually improve, not that none of these are not good for a rock chop, but you will get an even more improvement to the rock chop. And with that length, they do act as fantastic slicing knives as well. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Chef Brendan. Take care.